Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle. Tara na't simulan ng inyong umaga sa mga magagandang refleksyon tungkol sa ating buhay at pananampalataya. Kasama sina Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle ng Manila, Father J. Boy Gonzales at Father Nono Alfonso ng Kapisanan ni Jesus, Father Cali Llamado ng Manila Cathedral at Binibining Risa Singson Kaupeng ng Light of Jesus Community dito sa Kapit Pandasal sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Sa panahon ng pandemya na patuloy nating pinagdaraanan, kasama ng pisikal na kalusugan, ay huwag din nating kalimutan na pangalagaan ang kalusugan ng ating mga kalooban at damdamin. Ito po si Father Cali mula dito sa Manila Cathedral. Halina po at magkapet pandasal. Nagpaalala po ang World Health Organization na bukod sa sakit na dala ng COVID-19 ay kailangan ding bigyang pansin ang ating psychological health, ang mabuting kalusugan ng ating pag-iisip, kalooban at damdamin. Sabi ng WHO, the isolation, fear, uncertainty and economic turmoil surrounding the pandemic could all cause psychological distress. Ilang buwan na po tayong nasa kakaibang sitwasyon. Maraming mga pamilya ang hindi pa ulit nagkakasama-sama ng maayos. Maraming mga nangangambang mawalan ng trabaho o kita para pangtustos sa pamilya. Mga frontliners na araw-araw ay umuuwi ng pagod at may pangamba para sa sarili. Lahat po ng ito ay nakakaapekto sa ating mga pag-iisip at damdamin. Tama lang po na paalalahanan ng bawat isa na pangalagaan ang damdamin. Alam ko tayong mga Pilipino ay medyo mahiyain na pag-usapan ng mga nararamdaman natin. Parang ang OA o ang drama sa tingin natin. Pero ito ang tamang panahon na kumustahin mo ang sarili mo o ang kapwa mo. Kamusta ang pakiramdam mo ngayong panahon? Panginoong Jesus, pangalagaan mo po ang aming buong katawan, damdamin at isipan. Amen.
The voice of the Blue Eagle. Radyo Katipunan 87.9.
Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagpabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay Atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Ipagta Blue Eagle, galing, hiting at tigil. Blue and white,
The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
The Ateneo de Manila University Institute of Philippine Culture, AdMU IPC, in partnership with the Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, DOST-PCHRD, is providing this webinar as a public service, but it is neither a legal interpretation nor a statement of AdMU IPC or DOST-PCHRD policy. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by the AdMU IPC or DOST PCHRD. The views expressed by speakers, facilitators, and viewers are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by AdMU IPC or DOST PCHRD employees are those of the employees and do not necessarily reflect the view of the AdMU IPC, DOST PCHRD, or any of its officials. Before we begin, here are some house rules for the webinar. 1. If you encounter connection problems during the webinar, please click the Reconnect button found at the top of your screen. 2. Please use the chat box on the right side of your screen for questions and comments related to the webinar at any time. They will be read after the presentation. 3. Please state your name and affiliation with your questions and comments. 4. We value respect and courtesy the most during our webinar sessions.
Hello, so good morning everybody and welcome to another eTuro session. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us in another webinar brought to you by the IPC eTuro and WeCan projects funded by the Philippine Council for Health Research and Development of the Department of Science and Technology. This webinar is offered in line with IPC's advocacy for convening and promoting health research for public information and consumption through effective science communication. We are broadcasting live on remote through the facility of the Institute of Philippine Culture of the Ateneo de Manila University. I am Trixie Beato from the eTuro team. Today's webinar is co-presented with the Community Welfare, Wellness, and Wellbeing Laboratory, or the CW3 Lab, which aims to build a research portfolio of translational value to young Filipinos' welfare, wellness, and well-being that bridges the gap between research, policy, and practice. The CW3 team is composed of researchers from various departments and programs of the Ateneo de Manila University, such as Development Studies, Economics, Health Sciences, Sociology and Anthropology, and Mathematics, as well as UP Los Baños College of Human Ecology. To formally start this webinar, allow me to read the message from the Director of the Institute of Philippine Culture, Dr. Enrique Nino Leviste. He says, Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. The webinar conversations brought to you by the Institute of Philippine Culture seek to provide
I'm back in.
inclusive platforms for dialogue on public health issues and sociocultural, economic, and political realities under the time of COVID-19. These sessions aim to create participatory channels for communicating knowledge, insights, and practices to broader and more diverse publics amid uncertainties and insecurities caused by the global pandemic. More broadly, these exchanges are part of IPC's commitment to advance culturally nuanced, milieu-sensitive, and evidence-based approaches and interventions to everyday maladies and precarities. As IPC celebrates its 60th year of social science research and advocacy, rest assured that we will remain steadfast and faithful in our work and will continue to collaborate with our partners, whether online or offline, during this new normal. We thank the Department of Science and Technology's Philippine Council for Health Research and Development for their support in building the foundation of IPC's online learning communities. Inaanyayahan namin kayong makipag-ugnayan, makilahok, at makiisa sa amin. Maraming salamat. So thank you, Sir Nino, for your support and to this initiative. Today's webinar is entitled Gutom. Today's webinar is entitled Food Augmentation and Community Kitchens, mga tugon sa gutom sa panahon ng pandemya. If you have Twitter accounts, you may follow us at ehealth_phil for live tweets of today's webinar, and you may also follow the Institute of Philippine Culture through our Facebook page for announcements on future webinars and other IPC initiatives and programs. For today's webinar, we are once again joined by Dr. Leslie Advincola Lopez, who is one of the co-heads of the CW3 laboratory and is our session facilitator. Dr. Lopez is a sociologist and a faculty member of the Ateneo de Manila University under the Development Studies program. She is also a research associate at the Institute of Philippine Culture, working on the challenges of ASEAN regional health governance mechanisms. So good afternoon, Dr. Lopez.
Magandang tanghali, magandang hapon, Trixie, at sa lahat ng mga nakikinig sa ating webinar sa hapong ito. Ang ating topic sa araw na ito ay napapanahon dahil ito ay about bukod sa gutom sa panahon ng pandemya. This afternoon, we're very lucky to be able to have speakers who are working and tirelessly on the ground to provide healthy and nutritious food for public school children. For today, we'll have 3 speakers. Our first speaker will be Father Ben Nebres of the Society of Jesus. He is the past president of the Ateneo de Manila University and currently a professor in the mathematics department of the same university. After Father Ben, we will have Doc Carmela Oracion of the Ateneo Center for Educational Development. Doc O is a veteran educator, and together with Father Ben, they've been doing a lot of work on public school feeding all throughout these years. And last but not least, we'll have Lawrence Cruz, Loleng, who's the National Program Head of the Kusina ng Kalinga Anti-Hunger Program of GK. Loleng has been working tirelessly to provide houses for Filipino families and also food for school children. Each speaker will have 15 minutes for their respective presentations, after which we will allot another 15 minutes to answer the questions posted by our participants in the chat box. You may post your questions anytime during their presentation, but we will be closing the chat box, okay, after the last presentation of Lawrence Cruz. We will only be reading these questions during the Q&A portion. It will be reopened after the questions and answers segment for your comments and suggestions. For today's webinar, our speakers were asked to focus on the community level initiatives and share what can be done to mitigate hunger among school children. This is most timely given this time of COVID-19 pandemic, where the unemployment in the country is very high at 45 or 44%. Even before this pandemic, hunger, malnutrition, even stunting is already a problem in the country. But given that there are lots of people who are willing to help, our speakers today will be sharing with us the possibilities and the options that are available to us. Trixie? Okay, I'm back, Trixie. We'll now welcome Father Ben Nebres to talk about his advocacy on school-based feeding program for public school elementary school children. Good afternoon, Father. So this afternoon, our first speaker is going to be Father Ben Nebres. Okay. So Father Ben will be talking about his lifetime advocacy to address the nutrition and stunting problems of public school children in the country. May we now call on Father Ben to start with his presentation. We would like to apologize for some.
Okay. Am I on now?
Okay, Father, please go ahead. You're on.
Oh, okay now. Sorry. My apologies. Okay, sorry. So good afternoon again. Sorry for all the problems with technology. My role is simply to welcome you and to thank you for joining us in this webinar. I think we're over 1,000 participants here. And I believe that you are here because you care for our children. So I would like to thank you for your caring and your concern. We are all concerned about COVID-19. How can we not be when everything we hear and see is about it? But I hope that you agree with the economist Shel Habito, who wrote on August 4 in the Inquirer that hunger is actually our bigger crisis. Hunger is our bigger crisis. And he gives the numbers. He said, when he wrote that article on August 4, he said that there are over about 2,059 deaths on COVID-19, and everybody is alarmed. But he points out also that undernourished children's deaths in the last few years has been 31,000. Maybe not every year, but maybe every 2 years, a lot more than COVID-19. Also, because of the pandemic, lack of jobs, and so forth, 30 million Filipinos are regularly hungry, mostly children. And for the children in particular, bodies and brains are stunted. So they really don't have much of a future. They will not learn. But we are all worried, all alarmed about COVID-19, but we are not much moved by the problem of children dying from malnutrition. It's a very big puzzlement for me, but it's a reality. So my role really in this webinar is to ask ourselves, how can we move more to action? You are here because you already are concerned. And how do we do that? I've been involved in health and education reform for a long time. And a friend of mine 40 years ago told me that getting others involved in education or health, which are long-term for the poor, is like spreading a good virus. It starts slowly and then begins to expand. So you are already infected with the virus of caring and concern for others. That's why you're here joining this webinar. So I'd like to ask you to invite others to see, to be moved, and to help them to be help them to be infected, so that they will also do something about the concerns of malnutrition and hunger among children. Especially, invite your friends, invite them maybe to go to a kitchen, invite them to donate, but especially local governments. I think in the presentations of Dr. Carmela Oracion and Mark Lawrence, you will see that local government officials are very important. Governors, like Governor Tyrone Uy in Compostela Valley, mayors, like Mayor Rex Gatchalian in Valenzuela, or Mayor Lendon Oreta in Malabon, vice mayors, like Vice Mayor Lori in Valenzuela, Kagawads, provincial, city, and municipal health officers. Really, let us talk to them, work with them, support them, and spread this end hunger virus. It is really the only way that we can give our children a future. So I invite you to listen to Dr. Mel and to Mark Lawrence, and let us together create a better future for our children. Good afternoon again.
Thank you very much, Father Ben. Talagang nakakabahala sapagkat kahit na matagal na nating nararanasan ang kagutuman ng mga kabataan, parang hindi ganoong kadami ang tumutulong para maibsan ang suliranin. Upang maunawaan nating mabuti kung ano ang nangyayari sa pag-i-implement ng programa sa baba, ang susunod nating speaker ay si Dr. Mel Oracion. Dr. Oracion is the director of the Ateneo Center for Education Development. And as was mentioned previously in the audio that was played at the beginning of the webinar today, Dr. Oracion and ACE has been working tirelessly to provide nutritious food for public school children for many, many years now. And to talk about her experiences, the challenges, and also to engage us, okay, to help in this effort to alleviate the problem, let us all welcome Dr. Mel Oracion. Good afternoon, Dr. Oracion.
Magandang hapon po, Dr. Leslie. Magandang hapon po sa lahat ng naririto sa webinar ngayon. Our team is very happy to note that many are interested in the topic of today's webinar, which may really be the greater crisis compared to the pandemic. We all know that some private schools have started classes, while the start of public school classes has been moved to a later date. Teachers have been very busy preparing. Parents and students have been quite anxious about the alternative modalities for education this year. But as Father Nebres, our first speaker, had expressed to us some few weeks ago, he said this: we really have to attend to the problem of malnutrition. A year or two of delayed education can be repaired, but a damaged brain of a child due to malnutrition can no longer be repaired. As introduced, I am from the Ateneo Center for Educational Development, or ACE, which was established in 1997 to spearhead the efforts of the university to help improve public basic education in scale. We started doing a lot of teacher training, given that this was and this has been the default solution for problems in public basic education. But after many rounds, not much changed. We realized that many other problems were there, such as poor eyesight among public school children, as well as hunger and malnutrition, which prevented the children from going to school regularly or doing well in their lessons. Hunger and malnutrition among public school children prompted us to start feeding programs for public schools through the central kitchen model. The feeding programs had been going on very well over the past 10 years. LGUs, as mentioned earlier, had implemented such programs citywide or municipality-wide, like the one in Valenzuela City or Mercedes Camarines Norte. Support from private groups had been quite strong. Unfortunately, the pandemic had to stop the programs even before the school year ended. However, we all know that hunger and malnutrition continue, and we need to find alternative ways to address these problems. COVID-19 has forced us to adapt, to shift to alternative ways of bringing food to the children while preventing the spread of the virus. We all know that in the fight against hunger, there is no time to lose. Hence, last June 18, 2020, we started the Food Augmentation Program. The Food Augmentation Program, which ACE has started to implement and which it is trying to promote, has the following features. It consists of food rations for the child as well as his or her family. It involves providing vegetable packs once a week. It aims to keep the children in school, whether they're studying through modules or online classes, and to do well in their lessons. The beneficiaries can be identified based on their BMI or as recommended by the school principals if measurements are not available. Vegetables for these food packs are sourced directly from farmers, and transport of food packs is done by people who lost their sources of income. The pilot run of the food ration or augmentation program involve two schools, both in Quezon City. We have 300 beneficiaries from Maligaya Elementary School and 200 beneficiaries from Ramon Magsaysay Elementary School. In the table on this slide, you will see some characteristics of the two schools. But for both of them, many students are children of daily wage earners like lapanderas, construction workers, tagalinis ng bahay. And the students come from very, very poor communities, with some students living inside the Manila North Cemetery in the case of Ramon Magsaysay Elementary School. You may be asking why we provided vegetables when it would have been easier to provide rice or even perhaps include canned goods in the food packs. Well, according to Dr. Even Delight Miro of the Loyola School's Mathematics Department, based on her research, data on the food groups included in the diet of the children reveal that less than 50% of the children in Metro Manila have fruit, vegetables, milk, or milk products in their diets. You will also see in the next table that the children get very little of dark green leafy vegetables, as well as fruits and vegetables rich in vitamin A. So you'll see that very clearly. They're in red on this table. What is the cost of each of these food packs? Well, we have seen that it is possible to produce such food packs and distribute them to the beneficiaries in these two schools at 90 pesos per pack per week, which translates to 360 pesos per month per pack, or 3,600 pesos for each child and his or her family for a school year of 10 months. What have these packs contained? You may wonder, because it's just 90 pesos. Well, we have these examples. For example, on the first week, we gave them a kilo of eggplant, 500 grams of kamote, 1 piece of upo, half a kilo of patola, and 3/4 kilo of tomatoes, as well as 1 pack of mongo, close to half a kilo. And that cost us 87.50. On this slide, you will see the other the food packs that were given to them on the other weeks. Notice that each pack had cost us less than 90 pesos for each of the weeks we distributed to them. You may be asking where the balance of 90 pesos went. Well, that's largely used for operations, basically transportation for the food packs, as well as packing supplies. Finally, on this slide, we'd like to seek your help. As Father said, we are calling upon people who can help us spread the end hunger virus. In what ways can this be done? We can invite people to contribute either 90 pesos or 360 pesos, or for those who can afford, maybe 3,600 pesos, which will be good for feeding a child and his or her family for 10 months. People can contribute food items every so often, and we can include these in the food packs. You can also purchase vegetables from either Tanging Yaman Foundation for wholesale purchases, or from the Ateneo Center for Educational Development for retail. With that, I'd like to close my session and bring you back to Miss Leslie.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oracion. Nakakatuwang tingnan na hindi naman pala ganun kalaki ang kailangang pera para mapakain ang mga bata at ang kanilang pamilya na rin sa panahon na maraming mga pamilya sa iba't ibang parte ng Pilipinas ang nagugutom dahil sa kakulangan ng hanap buhay. Ang susunod po nating kalahok o speaker ngayong hapon ay si Lawrence Cruz. We call him Loleng, and he will be talking about the efforts of Gawad Kalinga in augmenting and feeding children also all over the country. To start his presentation, Mark provided us with a short video to show the initiatives of Gawad Kalinga in addressing this problem. Okay, welcome Mark, and after the video, we'll proceed with the talk of Lawrence. Mark, Lawrence, please.
Sakit baya kay inangano naagog ko yung mga anak niya. Kana bitong Nana ako nulisod baya kay inangano kami og ganikanan okay ra pero ang mga anak lisod baya nga dili bitaw pa kanang makakaon bitaw. Pito makabuk akong anak niya akong bana bali pag yun. Dili man siya katrabaho. Muna kami karon magkuyog-kuyog na lang mi kung asa may makapamagol. Naroon nang makakaon mi.
May mga bata din na problema. Hindi lamang nila masabi sa guro. Malalaman mo na lamang kung magreklamo na sila. Kung sumakit ang tiyan nila, yun namin mo nalaman na wala pala silang kain na pumunta dito sa eskwelahan.
So many poor people go hungry on a regular basis. We cannot end poverty without confronting hunger. The poor endure hunger on a regular basis, but its most devastating effects are experienced by the children. Hunger is most cruel to the young. That's why in 2014, Gawad Kalinga launched Kusina ng Kalinga as a response and as a platform to end hunger among children. Kusina ng Kalinga is made possible by the collaborative efforts of individuals and institutions to ensure that no child goes hungry under their watch. Hungry is a big monster, but bayanihan is a much, much bigger force. That's why Kusina ng Kalinga is built on the conviction that together we can end hunger. For the past 6 years, GK worked hand in hand with the Department of Education and various local government units, and together we have established a vast network of 160 kitchens nationwide that can prepare up to 100,000 meals every day. This model is simple. A kitchen is established in a school or community that has access to basic ingredients and supplies. The local government unit provides the regular workforce, and DepEd and private donors provide the meals. But all of this is kept together by a dedicated team of volunteers and workers who wake up at 4 a.m. every day to prepare and distribute thousands of meals. Their caring and sharing is the secret ingredient of KK.
Yung mga ingredients po na linuluto namin, nanggaling po sa local. So, dito sa Sambuan, dito rin kami bibili ng karne, ng bigas, ng mga gulay na gagamitin namin.
Sa akong 7 ka anak, 5 ang nakadawat sa feeding program. Dako jud kay natabang ang Gawad Kalinga Kusina. Kay nang excited na kay sila nga mo eskwela. Malipayon ko nga nakatabang ni volunteer ko dire sa San Sebastian, nakatabang ko sa mga kabataan. Isama na ko nga ginikanan daghan ng dili ra kay ako ray kabos, daghan yung mga kabos.
We have also provided thousands of meals in every major disaster since 2014, beginning with Super Typhoon Yolanda and other typhoons, the eruptions of Mayon and Taal volcanoes, the earthquake in Makilala, and in the siege of Marawi.
Siyempre, nag-adjust pa sila. Yung iba, hindi pa nakalimutan yung panahon ng giyera dito sa Marawi. Yung mga ibang bata, nagkakapubya na.
Nag-umpisa po ang Kusina ng Kalinga dito sa Marawi in partnership with DepEd, ARMM pa before. Actually, a month after yun ng Marawi siege. Nagpakain kami ng 1,000 bata noon. And then, January of 2018, na-launch na din po yung kitchen natin dito na mismo sa Marawi.
First time kasi na mangyari dito sa school namin na may pagkain na dinadala. So ang mga bata, masaya. Araw-araw pumunta sila sa school kasi alam nila na may feeding na darating.
Last year, ang UP school, ang learner school lang dito ay 268. Ngayon, may learners na akong 372. So, isang dahilan ay itong feeding program na bigay sa amin ng kusina ng Kalinga.
Yung mga schools kasi na hinahatidan nila ng pagkain, outside na siya mismo ng center ng Marawi. Sa paghahatid nila, inaabot sila ng mga 2 to 3 hours.
Ako, grade 1 lang. Toyo lang yung ulam ko. Sila, marami pang marating pa sa kanila na mag-aral. Ako hindi ko natapos na. Ay natin daw para sa di nila maranasan yung buhay ko.
Nakita ko sa mga staff na hindi sila yung mga professional or whatsoever, pero nakita nila na pwede din pala silang tumulong.
Nakakatulong ito talaga as process of healing sa mga bata kasi yung excitement ba ng mga bata, nakikita ko talaga na they are excited pag kumukuha sila ng pagkain.
Self-rated hunger has averaged 10% for the past 20 years, which affects roughly around 2.1 million families annually. But as of May 2020, this number has gone up to 4.2 million families due to the effects of the pandemic. Hunger became bigger and its grip became tighter. We are thus called to bring our bayanihan and heroism to a whole new level. Now more than ever, we must work together to make sure that no one gets left behind in this pandemic. Millions of kids will be studying from their homes and communities this year. In these unprecedented and uncertain times, we need to make sure that they get all the help we can give. That is why for this year, Kusina ng Kalinga will go to where the kids are. Gawad Kalinga will establish kitchens in the communities to provide at least one nutritious meal a day for kids aged 1 to 12 years old for at least 120 days. Help us bring food to those who need it the most in this time of pandemic. Join us in our battle against hunger and poverty. We should be able to tell ourselves that no child went hungry under our watch. Hunger ends where caring begins.
Ang hapon po sa lahat. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this noontime webinar. Yung video po na share with you is available on YouTube if you want to rewatch it and share it with your friends. As Father Ben Nebres shared with us, hunger was a big crisis prior to the pandemic. And ito pong nangyari sa atin, pinalala lang yung nangyari, yung gutom ng pandemic. Na I go through some details and maybe invite you to take certain steps so that we don't become bystanders to this crisis of hunger. What I want to share with you now is actually Father Ben and Dr. Oracion already talked about how we fight back the end hunger virus. On the part of Gawad Kalinga, we say that we must fight back. Hindi pwedeng nilalamon ng gutom ang mga kabataan tapos wala tayo magagawa. And we need to fight back as a hunger warrior. And so, by September 1, pag kumanta na po si Jose Marichan para sa Pasko, sisimulan din natin ang kampanya para maging Pasko na maaga sa mga bata by calling on the entire country and the global community of Filipinos out there to be a hunger warrior. Ito po yung kampanyang sisimulan sa Gawad Kalinga, pero ibabahagi sa lahat na magtayo ng mga community food hubs to address the hunger during the pandemic. Background lang po, gaya nga ng nasabi kanina, ang Gawad Kalinga natuto lang po sa Ateneo de Manila. And so this model actually we copied from Ateneo de Manila sa Blue Plate for Better Learning. We adapted it for a rural setting and we worked with a lot of partners to establish our first kitchen in 2004 as part of Typhoon Yolanda initiatives. After we had some errors and we corrected them in 2014, by 2015, we tried it out in 2 other locations and kept on replicating such that we ended 2019 with a network of 160 kitchens and we were serving around 160,000 meals a day. Bago ko pinabahagi sa inyo to, una, para ipakita na pwede tayo kopyahan ng mga modelo ng mga ginagawang mabuti basta para sa ikabubuti ng kabataan. Ikalawa, we need to try. We need to learn and try and then just grow what we're doing para mas madami tayong maabot. We want to share you some steps on how to do that. No? So ito po yung mga network na kitchen na naitayo. No? This was the ending date for 2019. We added some more this year. That's why we are up to 160. Ang maganda po dito, 160 kitchens, pero mga 1,000 schools yung aming katrabaho. So maraming salamat po sa mga partner namin sa who actually embrace this model and be able to bring hot meals to our learners. No? Kasama din po namin ng mga kawani namin sa NNC sa National Office na tumulong mag-develop ng mga recipe para masigurado na ito ay nutrition at sa edad ng mga bata. Just a visual map of where we are, just to show that this one nearby for everyone. I see some people from Tugon, from Agusan in this webinar, in North, Sarangani. One near you. And it's important to show this because sabi nga ni Father Ben, mahalagang malaman na may mga gumagalaw na at kung sakaling pwede na magbiyahe, pwedeng para matuto tayo. No? Pero dito tayo nagsisimula ngayon. No? Sabi ng SWS noong July, there are 5 million hungry families. Times 6, it implies that there are 30 million hungry Filipinos. This is roughly 1/3 of our population, and that was July. At kung titignan nyo po yung graph na yan, ng mabilis. So, nakakalungkot mang isipin pero patuloy itong tataas. And so, it is highly possible that within the next few months, we will be witnessing the highest self-rated hunger our country has ever seen in the past 20 or 30 years. So, gusto ko pong manawagan, no? Madami pong nandito, tagay kulig sa virus. So yung una ko pong mensahe, kung nagawa mo na yung unang duty natin during this pandemic, which is to stay safe, at kung na-check mo na yon, then I wanna call on a second duty. If you are safe during this pandemic, then you are free to help. Again, if you are safe during this pandemic, then you are free to help. And that's why, sana po hindi maipit yung kwento natin sa pandemya na natili tayong ligtas at malusog. Gusto ko din pong tanungin, ilang mga batang Pilipino ang nanatiling malusog at ligtas dahil sa iyo. And so ito po yung panawagan ng Gawad Kalinga na imbitasyon that if you are now blessed with health and safety and a job and a meal. Alam ko po tanghaling tapat ngayon, hindi tayo kumakain or baka iba dyan sumisimple ng kain, no? Pero kung nakakakain tayo ng 3 beses isang araw, yun ay ang dahilan kung bakit kaya kong isipin na kaya mong magpakain ng isang batang Pilipino. Kasi napakarami ng nagugutom at sa masamang palad namin. Sabi nga kanina, sa 30 million na yon, karamihan dyan bata. Ang estimate po, 10 to 12 million. Sa 30 million nun ay kabataan. And we must act so that they get enough food and proper nutrition during this time of crisis. Ito po tayo mag-act, no? Isa na pong paraan yung shinare ni Dr. Oracion. Pwede tayo magpagtungan sa IS at sa Department of Education para makapagdala ng mga food packs sa mga schools gamit ng gulay, no? Mga na locally sourced. Yung isa pong panawagan din namin, pwede din tayo makapagdala ng lutong pagkain kaya na nagagawa natin bago ng pandemya. No? Ito po yung panawagan ng Gawad Kalinga, we must fight against hunger, be a hunger warrior. Para po mas may malaman kayo dito, una pong panawagan namin, magdesisyon po kayo na makatulong sa isang bata for 120 days. Kasi po, mahirap mag-imbita at mag-inspire ng iba kung di pa natin nagagawa. Sabi nga namin sa Gawad Kalinga, una sa serbisyo, huli sa benepisyo. So, importante po na pag nagsabi tayo sa ating mga kasamahan, tayo mismo, masabi natin na nagpakain tayo. Pwedeng ikaw mag-isa, dalawa kayo ng kaibigan mo, buong pamilya mo, pero kailangan masabi natin may isang batang kumakain dahil nagdesisyon kang magpakain. Pag nagawa mo na po yun, pwede mong imbitahin ang inyong mga mahal sa buhay. Isa pong pinakamagandang regalong pwede niyong ibigay sa bawat isa ay maging paraan na magdala ng kabutihan sa ibang tao. No? Napapakain po namin ng isang bata ng 20 pesos isang araw. No? Isang meal ng kanin, ulam na gulay sa isang araw. Kung hindi naman po magbibigay ng donation, pwede din pong mag-isip na mag-deliver ng cooked food sa mga community food hubs. O kaya ng mga ready to cook, bigas, gulay, at lulutuin natin ito o ipamimigay. O di kaya, kung kayo mismo ay talagang excited at gusto nyo lumaban talaga sa gutom at ipakita na hindi kayo magwawalang bahala, pwede din kayo magbukas ng sarili nyong community food hub. Tuturuan po namin kayo. No? At ikatlong hakbang, huwag kayong hihinto hanggat hindi tapos tong pandemya na to. Tandaan nyo, sa bawat araw ng pandemya, may nagkakasakit. Pero sa bawat araw ng pandemya, may batang kumakalaman sikmura. Huwag po tayo mag-iwanan sa panahon ng pandemya. Kung kumakain ka, kaya mo magpakain ng iba. Saan po tayo magsisimula ng ating laban? Ang Be a Hunger Warrior campaign magsisimula doon sa mga lugar na talagang masama ang tama dahil sa quarantine. Yung buong Pilipinas naman tinamaan talaga ng pandemic, pero may mga area nang ibabaw dahil sa dami at sunod-sunod na mga quarantine. Gaya ng Metro Manila, Bulacan, Calabarzon, Metro Cebu, Iligan City sa Buanga del Norte. Hindi po namin sinasabi na ito lang. Madami pang iba, pero dito muna tayo magsisimula. At halimanawa sa awa ng Diyos at sa tulong nating lahat at sa pagbabayani nating lahat ay madala natin itong modelo ng community food hub sa iba't ibang lugar sa Pilipinas. Pero dyan po tayo magsisimula kasi dyan po pinakamaraming nahihirapan ngayon at nagugutom. Kaya po nang sinabi ko kanina, hindi po kami nag-iimbita na idea lamang. Nung Mayo po, nagsimula na kami mag-eksperimento kung kaya ba talagang magluto at maghatid ng pagkain. At ito po yung mga lugar kung saan kami nag-eksperimento sa Quezon City, Pampanga, Bulacan, La Union, Iloilo, Hernani, Sultan Kudarat at Butuan City. Sa lahat ng ito, napatunayan namin ang ilan sa magagandang bagay. Napalagay ko ay solusyon sa pandemya ng gutom. Una, handang magbigay at mag-volunteer ang mga nasa komunidad. Sila po ang nagpapatakbo ng aming kusina. So, gaya ng sinabi ko sa video, ang number 1 ingredient po sa kusina ng Kalinga ay ang pagkalinga. So, unang desisyon, magkalinga tayo. So, natuwa po kami dahil ang mga nanay mismo, taga-community, nagpapalit-palitan araw-araw para magluto ng mga 300 meals. Gagabayan po namin kayo sa paghahanda niyan. Ikalawa, willing at kailangan ng mga barangay na mga ganitong programa. Sa maraming barangay po, walang ganitong programa pero kailangan. Baka masimulan po natin iyon. At sila po ang number 1 nating kaagapay sa pagkapatupad ng mga health standards at paghahatid ng mga pagkain. Ikatlo, posible pong maghatid ng lutong pagkain ngayong pandemya. Yan po ang ating gagawin para yung mga bata na nag-aaral sa bahay ay makatulong sa pag-aaral nila yung pagkain. Ikalawa, ang mga magulang na nag-aalala sa susunod na kakainin ng anak nila, kahit papano man lang ay maibsan ang kanilang pag-aalala. Hindi po natin masusolusyonan ng lahat. Pero sabi nga ni Father Ben sa amin, lagi niyang turo, kung di mo kaya ang lahat, gawin mo yung kaya mo. Gawin mo yung kaya mo. Huwag nating gawing dahilan na hindi natin kayang gawin lahat, hindi natin gagawin yung unang hakbang. Huwag po nating pagdudahan ang kapangyarihan ng unang hakbang. Huwag niyo pong pagdudahan na isa lang naman yung pinakain ko, 30 million yung gutom. Huwag niyo pong pagdudahan anong gagawin ng Diyos, kabutihang iaalay ninyo. Yan po yung napatunayan namin sa Gawad Kalinga na walang maliit na kabutihan sa mata ng kapwa at sa mata ng Diyos. So panawagan po namin, huwag po tayong mag-iwanan. Magkalingaan tayo sa panahon na ito. Kasi yan ang pinatunayan ng mga syudad na yan. Simula Mayo hanggang ngayon, tuloy silang nagpapakain. So na-sustain na po nila ng 3 buwan ng feeding. Patuloy pa namin dalhin ito sa tulong ninyo. Statement ng Gawad Kalinga ay tapusin ang kahirapan para sa 5 milyong pamilyang Pilipino by 2024. At alam namin na hindi namin magagawa ito kundi namin naharapin ang problema ng gutom. Ang solusyon sa gutom ay ang pagkalinga ninyo. Sabi nga namin sa Gawad Kalinga, hunger ends. Paanyaya po sa lahat na 793 nandito. Makibahagi tayo sa pagkakalat ng mas makapangyarihang virus ng kabutihan ng End Hunger Virus. Sumama po kayo sa amin. Decide to be a hunger warrior today. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Loleng. Nais ko po sanang imbitahan si Father Ben at si Doc Oracion kasi ang susunod na bahagi ng ating programa ngayong hapon ay ang pagsagot sa mga katanungan ng ating mga participants. Ang una pong tanong ay maaari kayong mag-suggest or from your perspective. The first question, and anyone actually can answer, among the speakers can answer this. As an active student leader, I would like to know what are your suggestions, specific recommendations regarding best practices, projects to infect the youth with the virus of caring? That question is coming from Derike Mikhail Casio. So maybe you can take turns, Father, Ma'am O, and Loleng. Hinihingi niya yung suggestion so that the virus of caring that you mentioned earlier can actually spread, okay, to the young ones.
Well, let me begin. From way back, I have learned that just simply talking to people doesn't have great effect. That's why I gave up writing in the papers long ago, because it does not move people. The best thing really is to invite them to join. So yung sabi ni Lola kanina, ni Mark Lawrence kanina, now you begin by supporting one child or two children, and then invite your friends, invite them to do the same. Maybe you can already donate. Many people make a donation for Christmas. They say their Christmas card, sabi nila na instead of giving you a gift and making a donation for a child, they can already do it now and just give that card to your friend at Christmas. No? And then you can spread the word. You can ask them, can you do that also for others? So in other words, give an early Christmas gift, and then tell your friends you've done that. So it really has to be my experience, it has to be rather personal. And as Mark Lawrence said, it has to begin with us. So, but then do make a special effort to reach out to people who really have the opportunity to make things bigger. If you have a friend who's a mayor, a vice mayor, a kagawad, barangay captain, please try to talk to them, because if they are convinced, they can really mobilize a lot of resources. So make a special effort to do that. I guess that's our experience. Maybe Mel and Mark would also add.
Okay, thank you, Father. Doc O, Mark.
For me, I can just encourage you to take a first step. You know, when we started the feeding program many years ago, the cost was 11 pesos and 50 centavos per child per day. And the children of Ateneo Grade School used to go to our kitchens very regularly to help in the food preparations. One day, one grade 2 child went to his mother and said something like this, because the mom just bought a Louis Vuitton bag. And this child said, "Mom, magkano yung bag mo?" And so when the mother showed the child the price of the Louis Vuitton bag, sabi nung bata, alam mo ba kung ilang mga bata dun sa feeding program ang mapapakain yan? And that was a grade 2 child. So I think there are many ways of helping. We have shared with you some, but that's what I can tell you, no? Take a first step and things will soon follow after.
Thank you, Ma'am O. Loleng, would you like to respond to the question?
Nasa panahon po tayo ng crisis, and there are many things out of our control. So my first suggestion, choose a cause that is within your control. And I do believe that ending hunger for one child is within your control. Sabi mo, active youth leader ka. You are in a position to do something. And so, begin with that. And you will find that once nagawa mo na, you will find energy and inspiration. And you will be emboldened. And that's when you take the next step. Pag nagawa mo na, lumapit ka, huwag kang mahiya. Isa pong natuwa sa mga leader ko sa Gawad Kalinga, pwede ka lumapit kahit kanino basta hindi para sa'yo yung hihingin mo. So huwag kang mahiyang maglapit sa barangay captain, o sa mayor mo, o sa kung sino mang influential na kakilala mo. Kwento mo lang simple, naka-attend ka ng webinar, nadinig mo itong mga bagay na to, baka gusto nyong subukan natin. At yun po yung ikatlo, kailangan sumubok. Panahon po ng pandemya ngayon, may nakikita ko mga tanong na papanong baseline at ang measure, no? Nung bago po ng pandemya, napakahigpit po ng pagme-measure namin yan. Nagturo po sa amin sila Dr. O, at sila Leslie, may BMI na ginagamit, may self-survey pa kami. Pero ngayon po, panahon ng pandemya, ang sukatan simple lang, may pagkain o wala. that is the measure during this time of pandemic. And so we are in an emerging mode, and so we must bring help where we can. Wag po natin pagdudahan yung mga maliliit na nagagawa natin. Yung po yung panawagan ko. Sumubok tayo magkalinga at tingnan nyo, baka magsimula kayo ng mirakulo dyan sa lugar ninyo. Salamat po.
Okay, thank you very much, Loleng. Thank you to all the speakers. It's very enlightening and na marinig na lahat tayo ay may kakayahang gumawa. Oo, at it's very personal. From inside us, we can actually start the ball rolling. And since Loleng mentioned already, as a segue to this next question, did you conduct, it's about assessment, okay? So yung sagot ni Loleng kanina na sa panahon ng pandemya, isa lang ang ano dyan basta may pagkain na nakakain yung mga bata. Pero siguro sa dadating na panahon at hindi naman tayo permanenteng nasa pandemya, ang tanong siguro ay kung nagko-conduct ba daw ng baseline or endline nutritional assessment to see the changes or effect of the program. I'm willing to bet that the person who asked this is an academic. So gusto nating makita, are we actually making a dent? Okay, and maybe you can connect it with the study and the evaluation that I was a part of and that were shared to you in another occasion. Doc O or Father Ben and also Mark. Okay, who would like to start?
Yes po, meron po. Ibibigay po natin sa nagtanong yung mga information mula doon sa study nila Dr. Leslie, nila Dr. Eden.
Say something. As far as, in other words, yung pinapakain namin mga bata in Valenzuela, in Quezon City, Marawi, yes, there's a study which says that it's really working for them. But as Mark Lawrence said, that we probably reach about 150,000 children. But there are more. So if you want to measure in terms of are we making a difference on hunger and malnutrition in the country, the answer is very little. It's not that we don't measure. It's simply that we're not taking care of enough children. My own opinion, personally, is that yes, you can measure. But if the problem that we face is that 1/3 of our children are at risk, the most important thing is not the measurement. As Mark Lawrence said, the important thing is to give food to them. Let me just tell you, if you're not listening, we are the only country in Asia that has this problem of 1/3 of our children who are stunted and or hungry. No other country in Asia. All our neighbors, Indonesia, Malaysia, China, Japan, they're all fine. Only Africa has that kind of number. So, that's the reality. So, while I respect academics who want to measure, the real measurement is that we are not really succeeding in overcoming malnutrition and hunger. If you are an academic, you probably know about the Millennium Development Goals. We failed it badly. All our neighbors succeeded. We now signed the Sustainable Development Goals, and we are committed to end poverty and hunger by 2030. I don't think we're going to make it. So it depends what measures you want, but by real international measures, and Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals, we have done very little. It's not to discourage us, but it's simply to tell us that what we need to do is to act. Sure, we should measure, but first we have to act so that we have something to measure.
Okay, thank you very much, Father. And that is coming from a professor of mathematics. Yes, the magnitude of the problem is just so much. We can measure in due time, but what is more important right now is that we address the problem because they cannot wait. Hungry children cannot wait. Okay, they're going to fade away. I mean, really, literally fade. The next question, and I'm sure, okay, It's part of the program, but I'm going to throw it for the on the floor for the speakers to answer it. From Cecilia Aquin and Andre Flores, is it possible, and I know you're already doing something about this, is it possible to include pregnant and lactating mothers in these feeding programs? Malnutrition starts from conception, and a malnourished mother will be hard put to breastfeed appropriately. Are there any initiatives or plans to expand that would cater to the needs of pregnant mothers and children aged 6 to 23 months? The first 1,000 days probably. Okay, Father, Doc O, and Mark. Okay.
Well, let me begin. We have both Gawad Kalinga and Ateneo have been wrestling with this problem. The challenge that faces us is that they are not in one place. So how can we reach them? There are models, but we're not yet sure that we can scale them up. If you want to see a very good model, you can go to Malabon City. They're doing a fantastic job. They have basically the Mayor Len and Ma'am Melissa Oreta have set up a system where they have gotten carinderias to provide meals for the children, for the mothers and the children. And they have a milk bank so that they're ensured that they can provide milk for mothers who don't have it. So that's one model. We also studied other models, Quezon Province, where the governor really put all his efforts to addressing this problem of the first 1,000 days. Iligan City, where Mayor Madge Alfalor has created something like a Cerelac machine. There are initiatives, but we are still searching for an initiative that we can really convince all mayors to look at. For the urban mayors, they should look at Malabon, and maybe they can follow the Carinderia system and the milk bank that they have there. But yes, this is something that we are trying our best to address, and the challenge is really how to have a scalable model. That's where we are. But there are models going on.
Thank you, Father Ben, Doc O, and Mark.
In 2019, we actually started looking into a first 1,000 days program, and we have an experimental group in the Commonwealth area in Quezon City. Initially, I requested my staff to look for the pregnant women in the area, only to realize that at any given time, there were 3,000 pregnant women in the area. So we ended up choosing 100 beneficiaries, and we used to provide them cooked meals as well, but when the pandemic started, we also gave them food packs, and we're doing this with Robinson stores. We have selected only the younger ones, not the Batang Ina. They are 13 to 20 years old and are either pregnant or just given birth.
Yes, Mark, would you like to add something?
So ang tanong ay pwede ba? Ang sagot ay pwede. Gaya nga ng nasabi ni Father Ben, nagsusubok na kami. At ang challenge ngayon ay paano palakihin ng kasing laki ng school-based feeding program. Gaya nga sinabi ni Dr. O, madami sila pero ang problema hiwa-hiwalay. So actually before the pandemic hit in 2019, nag-eksperimento ang A sa Payatas, ang Gawad Kalinga nag-eksperimento sa Barangay Buena Vida, Makilala, North Cotabato. Tinamaan naman kami ng lindol in the middle of that pilot, no? Pero napatunayan namin doon na willing ang mga nanay. In fact, na-discover namin ang isang sikretong, or matagal lang nandyan, pero hindi lang alam na madaming tao, na mga taong talaga nasa frontline kahit walang pandemic o lindol. Yun ay mga barangay health workers na nandun sa taas ng bundok at na sumisiksik. Kilala po nila yung mga nanay na yan at nakatulong na malaki yung pagdadala namin ng kusina doon. At yun nga lang po, naantala yung aming pagpapilot. So ang ginagawa lang po namin ngayon, kung saan may mga community food hubs kami, naka-tailor fit po yan para sa mga school-age kids. Pero pag may mga 1-year-old, o di kaya mga pregnant at lactating na nais sumali, ay sinasali na rin po namin sila. Hindi namin sila dinidiscriminate. In fact, yan na yung effort namin kasi hindi nga po makatuloy yung pilot ng first 1,000 days. At tama po kayo, ito po yung magkukumpleto sa kwento natin. Pag nabuo natin yung equation na nagpapakain tayo sa pagkabuntis hanggang siya ay maka-grade 6, isa po yan sa pinakamalaking investment na pwedeng gawin natin para sa kinabukasan nating bansa. Malusog na batang Pilipino para sa mabuting kinabukasan ng Pilipinas.
Thank you, Mark. Ang susunod na tanong is about yung food augmentation. Ang tanong na nanggaling kay Cecilia Acuin is kung paano daw po pinipili yung mga beneficiaries ng food, yung recipients ng food augmentation. There's another question but we'll reserve it later for the assessment. And then, yung pangalawa po is nakakatuwa kasi ang tanong, and this is a question that I've been hearing, you as implementers of the program has been grappling with in pushing for the program. So how do we ensure that children are really eating the provided vegetables, or how sure are we that the family is really cooking these vegetables? Okay, because in the presentation of Dr. Oracion, she mentioned, which is actually anchored in the study that we did, is that the necessity of including fresh vegetables and fruits because of the micronutrient deficiency of these children. So yung tanong po, kinakain po ba daw talaga yung mga gulay na binibigay sa mga pamilya, at okay, paano daw pinipili yung mga recipients ng food augmentation program?
Yung unang tanong muna, under normal circumstances, dun sa ating feeding programs, we use as basis the BMI measures of the children. Pero mahirap gawin yun ngayon. At urgent yung issue ng gutom, no? Mula pa noong Marso. So when we started, we just requested the school principals to identify for us the 200 and the 300 most, the 200 and 300 poorest children in their schools. And the principals are of great help kasi kilala nila yan eh. Kilala ng mga class advisors nila, ng mga teachers nila, ang mga bata. Alam nila kung sino ang mahirap, alam nila kung sino ang pinakamahihirap, alam nila kung sino ang gutom, because children keep in touch with their teachers. No? So doon, yun po yung paraan natin ng paghanap sa mga batang ito. And how sure are we that they are eating this? No? You know, we keep in touch with them. It helps to keep in touch with your beneficiaries kahit ano pong dami nila. Itanong niyo po kay Father Ben kung ano-ano pong mga pictures ang pinapadala sa amin ng mga bata at ng mga pamilya nila. Well, again, through the principles,
The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.